7:35. Good morning, family. Larry Young and the coach. We're able to share with you this great opportunity. We call it the Youth Summit on air from 7 until 10 a.m. The summer of us growing, us serving, us leading. And we have facilitated Brother Raj Muhammad, Salam, and Reverend Wesley West. And we're going to continue along with 30-some young folks between the ages of 16 and 30 who are our special guests. And we have panelists who have joined us. I'll be giving you their names as we go through the morning. We already heard from Kiefer Mitchell representing the governor. We have Reverend Jerome Stevens representing the United States Senator Richard McCartney. We'll be hearing in a moment from the mayor of the city of Baltimore. Jack Young's office is represented. And before she leads on to the next segment, the Speaker Pro Tem, the highest ranking African American in the House of Delegates, Delegate Adrian Jones is with us, and there are others who will be introducing.
What's up, Baltimore? Again, it's your boy Pastor West here. Look, I'm asking y'all right now to go on Twitter, hashtag Summer of Us. Again, that's Summer of Us. You can follow Pastor__West on Twitter. We are taking your questions.
Family, right now we're talking about public safety and health. Public safety and health. And we were talking about the state of mental health in the Black and brown community, and how mental health is often not spoken of and the need is even denied. How do we break through and accept that mental health is needed and a very valuable resource within our community?
I think one of those ways is, I'm going to go back to one common word, and that's self. Many African American people are very uncomfortable when you're talking about mental health treatment. A lot of us culturally are used to handling our own problems, going to grandma, grandpa, aunt or uncle to help us to resolve these issues. They are afraid of being stigmatized. So I think some of that, the resolution would begin with, first of all, just having that talk at the coffee table. You know, asking what does it mean to you, or sharing what does it mean to me, and acknowledging the fact that you can't do it on your own. Sometimes you do need to go to somebody else who's professionally trained in order to help you through your situation.
And you know, as we talk about that, that's a conversation that we need to have even amongst ourselves. I mean, because you got to come from a support system that even encourages that type of conversation, but most importantly, that support system that even will put that out to the forefront.
Hi, my name is Diana. So talking about the state of mind, I really believe that the state of mind, the fear that your parents have, is inherited to us. So let's say that, for example, as Latinos, immigration and stuff, let's say that your parents get deported, they have that fear. We grow up with that fear, even though the consequences don't come up to us. We grew up saying, oh my God, my parents are fearing this, I'm gonna fear it too. So I feel like that's...
As we continue to talk with police relationships and the mental state of mind, the Latino community, as Deanna said, if the parents are in fear of police because they fear deportation, even though the legislation may have changed, if the parents are still fearing it, the kids are growing up also fearing it. So until there is that intentional dialogue between police involving the youth, some kind of training where the youth can be present, the youth are continuing this mental state of mind of fear.
I find it hard to talk about the state of the mind without tracing it back to where it comes from. And I, for one, don't want to keep referring to mental health as a solution instead of tracking down the problem. And so, you know, for one, it just bothers me to see kids walking down, to be walking down 3 or 4 blocks of abandoned houses just to stand by the bus stop, which happens to be by a mega church. And so when we look at the situations and the standards that these kids are being held to, what do you tell a kid that really doesn't have anything to live for? You know, they don't have a job, they don't have a house, they don't know where to sleep, but you're saying don't go to jail. They don't have any sort of momentum or anything, or anyone investing in them. And so we're gonna talk about mental health. We need to talk about where it comes from, and I think we can get somewhere from there.
Give us your name, young brother.
I'm Shay.
I'm Michaela Gilliam Price, and I think it's important that we have these conversations about how police are perpetuating this negative state of mind with our Black youth, and how it's not only how we're deemed as criminals, in the status quo, but we're also devalued and our political agency is not legitimized. But then we also need to reflect back on ourselves and as a Black community, like the young brother over here said earlier, and we need to see that we ourselves are not affirming Black lives, our young Black lives, and we do this by excluding those young Black lives that we say matter so much on panels that are about their political agency. And I think it's just important to point out that even in this panel and even in this space that's supposed to be about affirming the Black young voice, we have a panel full of strong Black men, but none of those people represented on this panel are young. None of those people on this panel are queer. None of these people on this panel are women. And I think we also need to just reflect on ourselves and see how we ourselves are not affirming the young Black lives that we say matter.
Right, so begin. I think an important point that our sisters brought up was the fear of police. I think for the Black community, Africans, that stems from enslavement of the plantation, and that history of policy enforcers, paddy wagons, paddy rolls, still within our generational ancestors 400 years ago, they feared the paddy rollers and the patrollers. So now we come full circle 2015, and if you speak to the truth of that, we see that our youth are now fearful 400 years later of the same entity that enslaved us 400 years ago. So I think that's a very valid point you need to make in a historical point, that fear has carried on for 400 years.
Yeah, I want to say something about the Black Lives Matter. My question is, yeah, Black lives do matter. My question is, do Black lives really matter to Black lives? Do Black lives really matter to Black? Because what I'm saying, we're killing. We're right now we're killing each other. We had 40 homicides in the last last month. Do we really matter to ourselves? I mean, I want to ask that question as well, because that's something that we should be involved in as well. You know, we are Black lives. Do we matter to ourselves?
I mean, we're fighting a war on two fronts, so I think that and the external threat, Davon.
Yeah, my name is Davon. And to your question, I think to the previous point, you know, I think it's important for us to understand that, you know, any community that's interested in being respected is organized in such a way where they have power, where they negotiate a certain institution so that they have the power to make things happen for their community. And I think, unfortunately, you know, there's a class of Black folks in our community that in exchange for their own individual, financial, personal, professional success, have traded that in for using what they have to organize our communities to have collective power in order to address issues. So the reason why police officers feel like they can kill us is because they don't fear that there's political retribution for the things that they do in our communities. And a part of what we see in our communities in terms of the violence we proliferate on each other has to do with the fact that, you know, we think about this system of racism and white supremacy in our society. We've internalized a lack of knowledge of ourselves. You look at Maslow's hierarchy of psychological needs, and the top is self-actualization. And unfortunately, for some reason, Black folks are one of the only folks that don't think it's important for us to inculcate a sense of love of self and knowledge of self, because I think that the violence we see in our communities is a projection of a suicidal impulse. That people don't learn to actually value themselves, who they are, their community. And it's only when we do that and institutionalize it, then we can have a substantive way of dealing with these issues.
Just before we continue, we're gonna pause, get some information out, and we're gonna come right back. This is the Larry Young Morning Show with your coach. Youth Summit on the air, 7 until 10. The Summer of Us will be continued right after this information break. Good morning. The Larry Young Morning Show presents the Summer of
Catch them off. Good morning.
I get perpetrated. She gets a good morning. What's going on with that?
Because she's always respectful. How you doing? All right.
I mean,